Greetings everyone on the internet. I have returned. Camera adjustment, that's about as good as the camera's gonna get. I am back in my Chevy Volt. I wanted to make a short video babbling a little bit about it. I have now commuted in it for an entire week. I'm heading home on Friday. I will have driven it an entire week. So I just want to kind of talk about a few things that I've learned and since having the car. Actually, like I said, it's Friday. I had a little different week commuting. Monday, Wednesday, and today I went to the normal office location, which is 12 miles one way, about 24-25 miles round trip. And Tuesday, Thursday, however, I went to a remote campus location, which is about 46 miles one way, or 92 miles round trip. So I actually had to burn some gas to get to work 2 days. So what can I say after driving this for a week? I definitely like it. This is pretty much it's working out exactly as I hoped it would. Again, if you watched my earlier video, I made a little quick video when I actually picked this car up and drove it home. That was a 3-hour drive, and so I was still new, still getting used to it. After driving it for a week, the big things that I wanted out of this car have definitely proven true. It's very quiet, it's very comfortable, and you get really good mileage out of it. I mean, if you think about what do you want in a daily driver commuter car, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. Those are the three big things you want to hit. You know, yeah, if it's fun to drive, that'd be good, but when you're going bumper to bumper traffic, you know, being fun to drive isn't really going to help very much. You know, you could go buy a 400 horsepower car, you know, when you're 6 inches off somebody's bumper or 2 feet off their bumper on the interstate as you're crawling down the highway. You know, tell me how you're going to use that 400 horsepower. So anyway, so I've had it for a week. Like I said, it's very quiet, it's very comfortable. That's been the quietness is something I've had to really get used to. You know, with the being on the battery, you know, there's no engine noise. That previous video I made, I talked a lot about how weird it was to have a battery-powered car, and, you know, have a car sitting there parked that is yet turned on and ready to drive, and it's making no noise. It is completely indistinguishable from a regular car that's been turned completely off. That still holds true. You know, right now there's no ambient noise as far as the engine goes. I'm on the battery. I actually just got off the charger at work, so I've got full battery the whole way. I don't feel like I'm fighting the external noise of the outside world in this car. I mentioned in the previous video as well, I came from a 99 Corolla, so that was not a quiet car. You know, paper thin doors, very little sound insulation, so you heard everything that was going on outside the vehicle at all times. Plus there's just, you know, the noise of the engine and stuff like that. You don't really have that here. It's just this effortless power that it feels like. Something else I'm getting used to is because there's no engine noise, you know, you floor the gas, there's no revving of the motor as it's building RPMs or anything like that. I can see how you can get in trouble with this car, or at least these types of cars, because there's no, you know, there's not really that same sensation of power and speed that you get with a normal car. I'll give you a perfect example. I was commuting in today, and there is this one part long straight stretch of the little road that I take that runs along the river, and I was behind somebody who was going, you know, significantly under the limit. You know, the road does get a little curvy, and so sometimes people who aren't very good at driving or afraid to drive, they take it very slow, and it's completely annoying and painful. So I got on the straight stretch, Once the line became dotted, put on my blinker, got over, hammered it, and went on around them. And I was doing like 70, 75 miles an hour pretty quickly. And you could just feel the torque of the electric motor and the car just kind of go forward. But there wasn't that same, you know, vocal drama or audible drama that you get running a regular engine car. That just didn't exist. And so it was, you know, wasn't getting that sensory feedback that I was used to from a regular gas-powered car. So I definitely like it. It is performing exactly as I hoped it would. On the battery, quiet, comfortable. I sit down, the climate control comes on, and it's nice. I purchased the proper vehicle for what I wanted and what I needed it for. So, other things I've discovered about the car, sort of littler things. The climate control system seems to run a little cold. I actually have the temperature set to 72, which for me is just astronomically hot. Most cars, I'll get in, like when we drive our Avalon, I like to set it like 68. But I tried that in here and I was like, wow, I am very, very cold. I need to turn it up, so I've got it all the way up to 72. Just gonna, the stereo, this has the Bose stereo system. It's got good fidelity. You know, you can turn it up and it's still pretty clear. Bass, it doesn't have a lot of low end. I really wish it thumped a little more. You know, I don't want the big subwoofer banging. You know, I'm not 17 anymore when I put my 10-inch competition series kickers, you know, in a box in the trunk. I'm not looking for that, but I would like a little, you know, let me know that the bass player was actually doing his job. Some other negative things that I've discovered. The USB port on this is pretty weak in charging the phone. I'm recording this on an iPhone. If you watched the previous video, you know, my first video was from a suction cup mount that kept shaking and vibrating because, you know, I had just purchased the car, so I didn't have anything else to use. This is actually off the ProClip mount that I bought, which I really like. I had one in the Corolla, I have one in the Avalon as well. Those are pretty much the mounts I'm going to use probably forever. So that's why the angle is the way it is. You're actually looking up at me from the right side of the gear shift in the passenger compartment. So that's why you get to see me, the ceiling, and that's about it. But you know, I like that the phone plugs into the stereo system. Because actually in the Corolla, I had replaced the head unit with a Pioneer that had iPhone iPod control and a USB right on the front. So every time I plug my phone in, I got it charged up and I got to hear whatever I wanted out of my phone. However, the charge port on this car is a little weak. When I am a Waze devotee. I run Waze every day. It has saved me so much time in routing around traffic, but it takes some battery. And I can run that on my phone plugged into the USB port, and I never really get charged. It doesn't lose charge, but I may gain like 1% or 2%. That's it. It doesn't charge the phone up, whereas previously my Pioneer could. Another thing I don't like, speaking of, I just came off the highway off an exit ramp. The traction control in this car is super aggressive. It will step in the moment it thinks things may even slightly go awry. It steps in and you see the little indicator and its brakes are applied, power's retarded. It's not good. I remember I watched several videos before purchasing this car about how it handled like a sports car. I'm like, those people are stupid. This car does not handle like a sports car. Primarily because the minute you try and get it to handle, traction control steps in and ruins the fun completely. I have not had fun on an exit or an entrance ramp since I purchased this car, because every time I try to, I get the little squiggly line symbol and I feel the car pushing back on me and not wanting me to do anything. It does have, you know, it is fairly tight, but yeah, this is not a sports car. Anyone who says this handles like a sports car, those people are stupid. Ignore them. So what else? Fuel-wise, I guess I should talk about how much fuel I've used, considering I actually had to make 2 nearly 100-mile commutes during the course of the week. Like I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I used no gas at all, only battery. The Tuesday, Thursday commutes, I got about 60 miles to the gallon, if you average them together. Right now, actually this morning, I got the low fuel indicator on, according to the My Chevrolet app that plugs in and reads this car. I have about 30-ish miles of range in the gas tank, and then it'll be done. But, you know, I've got a full battery. So, to give you an idea, I haven't actually run the hard numbers yet. When I picked this car up, I had to drive a little over 200 miles, door to door, from my house to the dealership, or actually from the dealership to my house, to get this car home. I left with a full tank of gas, so I drove those little over 200 miles. Monday I didn't use any fuel. Tuesday I drove 96-ish miles from leaving my house, going to work, and coming back. Wednesday didn't use anything. Tuesday drove another 96-ish miles. Here today I haven't used anything. And now I've got a low fuel indicator. But again, I'm on battery. My battery's fully charged. I'm not really worried about stopping for gas. I've got indicated 34 miles an hour, 34 miles range on the battery right now. So I'm just going to keep on driving, and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to plug the car in, and tomorrow I'll have another 30 some miles of electric range on. Driving the car, I've got it configured currently on the dashboard here, where I've got the battery on the left and I've got the accelerator and brake measurer on the right. So it's telling me how efficiently and smoothly I'm driving. It is a kind of a neat little gamification thing, and I've found that I have actually paid attention to that more than I thought I would. Part of that, I will admit, is that I'm still, even though I've, you know, this is my 5th day driving the car, the battery has done fine, I'm still nervous about the electric range, just because I haven't gotten used to it. I haven't taken the car out of normal mode, for example. I'm still in sport mode, or I never put it in sport mode. I know, I have a couple of people, I know one guy who actually has one of these, and his response when he heard I bought one was, always use sport mode. I haven't actually got that far yet. I just wanted to drive it for a week, just normal, and not really mess with too much, just to get a feel for it, get an idea what it's like, and then I'll start playing around with some of the other settings. But, you know, I kind of thought the gamification thing might be a little bit of a gimmick. I know other hybrids, like the Fusion hybrid, you can configure its display dashboard to have a vine that has leaves that grow out of it. And the more efficiently you drive, the more leaves you get on the vine. And I thought, you think, well, that's kind of gimmicky. But you actually do sort of pay attention to it. I have found myself paying attention to the little green ball and keeping the leaves in it much more than I thought I would. I have actually purchased a couple things for it. Well, actually, and this goes back to another thing I found about the car that I don't like. I didn't get, and I don't know, maybe this car never had it originally, the little cover for the back cargo area. This car didn't have one, it didn't come with one. However, I've read about them from various forums and things like that, and there is sort of universal agreement that, yeah, they've got a cover. It comes with a cover, but it doesn't really work very well in hiding what's in there. So I actually bought a Volt shelf. There's a guy who basically started up a little side business making customized parts and things for Volts, both first gen, second gen, and also he's started making things for the Volt. He made what's called a Volt shelf, which is basically a parcel shelf you can install in that back hatch that will completely hide whatever is in there. So when someone looks in through the glass, all they'll see is the shelf. They won't know what you've got in it. So I've got that. FedEx said that arrived today, so I'll put that in maybe this weekend if I can get a chance to. I've also bought just a cargo mat. I bought also from the same guy, what he calls a Volt port, which is basically a foam port that will slide around the charge port on the Volt to keep out snow and ice and things of that nature. And then the other thing I bought from him, which I kind of wondered about, but it was cheap enough that I went ahead and did it, what he calls a Volt screen. The design of this first generation Volt, the radiator, is down low, and apparently the grill in front of the radiator is not enough, it's not adequate enough to keep out decent sized stones or rocks from hitting the radiator hard and putting a hole in it. So he developed what he calls a Volt screen, which is basically just a mesh metal screen that will sit in front of that opening and keep out the smaller rocks that could still go through and puncture the radiator. So I've got those 4 items. Those are supposedly waiting on me back at the house. I'll try and put those in as soon as I can. I like it. I definitely like it. I enjoy driving it. Part of it is still the newness. I mean, let's be clear. I was coming from a 17-year-old vehicle, and now I've spent a week in a relatively modern car with modern refinement that rides smooth and is very quiet inside and has good stereo in it. So I won't discount that my vision is severely clouded and colored by the aspect. But very glad I bought it, enjoying driving it so far. So we'll see what happens after I drive it some more. Maybe I'll find more things that absolutely annoy me about it. But for now, I definitely like it. And we'll check in again and see how it's going.